I am finally caught up to the greatness, the awesome sauce, the legendary, the innovator of pain. The individuals that once created the Akatsuki, they created it for the very purpose of bringing this story to us. Kurigum is without question Nagato. I thought I was Nagato. I thought I understood pain in season 2. I understand pain. I have not gotten to that level of nirvana. I have not achieved that level of understanding pain. No, not yet. Not yet. I have yet to understand. At the time I thought I was prepared for what was going to happen in season 3. Nothing in all of the entire planet, nothing in all of the stories I've ever experienced could have ever prepared me for what I was going to see here in season 3 of Kubera. At its core, my thoughts on season 3 is goat raw fire peak fiction, because Maruna and Lise, listen, I like to give series a fair shot in regards to I never put more than one character, more than one arc, more than one whatever in my favorites list, because I like to give a lot of my favorites shots. You know, they're in my favorites list for a reason. I want to give them time to shine. If not, it would just be a lot from like my top 5, right? I like to give characters from series that I really like their time to shine in my favorites list. But there's certain series where I just cannot do that. There's certain series where I have to include more than one. I have to pull a Metal Gear Solid and put it in more than one. Now Kubera is one of those series. Because let me tell you something, wherever Lise goes, Maruna goes. They go hand in hand with my love for this series. And one day when I make like a favorite characters of all time list, you're gonna see both Lise and Maruna on that list. Because what this series has done with both of these characters, the moments that I just have been rent-free since I experienced them from these two characters, the fact that they have yet to peak, the fact that this series is yet to peak, but those two characters have yet to peak, and I know that for a fact. That these two characters have yet to peak scares me. And that's why I'm like, hold on, man. Hold on. They're legendary. They're goats. Those are my goats. All right, now there's a pool of goats. You know, I love Gandhi because I absolutely adore characters who are irredeemable. Characters who try so hard to be redeemed and they are just irredeemable. Gandhi's a goat for that. I love Agni, obviously a legend. I love Yuta, obviously a legend in pain. Somebody bless my boy, bro. Somebody bless my dog, right? Obviously, Lila, goat. We love the masked individual, the last goat in Lila, right? We love Asha. Asha's a legend. You know, a legend in a lot of pain, a legend who may be a little confused right now, but by God, we love Asha. I love Callie. Callie's a goat. Yo, I love me some, every time Callie's on screen, I'm like, baby, let's go. We love to see it. All right, it's a legendary character. Listen, but then there you get to the echelon, you get to the goats, and you're like, hold up, man. Like, listen, yo, Ran Syrof. I don't even know how you say his last name, bro. Syrof, hey, I don't know. But all I know is that whatever it is, it's Ran Goat. It's Ran Goat, man. All right, I love me some Ran. And then after that, you get Brilith, Goatlith. What in the world is Brilith in this season? What? What is Brilith in this season? And then you get to the goats with Maruna and Lise. And it's like, how in the world did this all happen? And so those are my spoiler-free thoughts. Please check out Kubera if you have not. It was a great webtoon. Fantastic storytelling. The way in which this series has been plotted, the ambition behind everything taking place here is crazy. It is insane, right? I'm excited to find something else with the level of ambition that this series has. I know that in novels, this series is I've seen it compared to something like the Malazan series, which I look forward to getting into down the line. And so I've seen it compared, and I know how much is required to be able to experience the Malazan series in regards to the lore. That's how much is here for goatness, right? Like, in order to fully, completely understand this series, I feel like it not only requires a few reads, but whenever you're reading through an arc, to read it from the very beginning. At least that was my experience with this one. And even though there's quite a few things that still I have no idea because there's just so much greatness, at its core, the series really spoke to me, and the characters really spoke to me, and the things that they go through really speak to me, right? And so even though there's few things that I, of course, need clarifications on, the entire thing, the peak fiction was running through the veins. That speaks higher than any type of confusion ever could, right? Whenever you get legendary chapters like 212 and the entire Weight of Time stuff and 236. And so once again, do not watch the rest of this if you have not read Season 3 of Kubera, because it is absolutely legendary. And one more last spoiler-free thing. That prologue, I knew I was in for peak when the prologue had me jumping out of my seat. I was losing my mind. I still can't stop thinking about the prologue, right? So now let's head into the spoiler stuff. Spoiler discussion. This is probably not going to be too long because there's just so much here that I'm going to end up babbling on forever. But so 3, 2, 1, I'm going to assume everybody who's still here has experienced the goatness, right? Has experienced true pain, has experienced and become one with Nagato. When I started this, because those few panels at the beginning still have me shook. That Season 3 preview still has me shook. And even then that we knew all that greatness was coming, and there's still greatness that we have yet to see, to know. That's how I know we haven't hit the peak yet, because we haven't seen the stuff that's in that thing. Or at least some of the stuff in there. And so it was like, yo. So, God, I was losing my mind whenever I saw Lee's. I was like, yo, my God. And it just continued on from there. But this season, from the very beginning, was handled in a much different way than initially anticipated. In a much different way from the very beginning. I was not expecting us to get into the Brilith and Agni stuff in that way. And in the way that that stuff was handled really had me just shook the entire time. And what makes this series so good is it does the switching POV stuff just so well. Where by the time you switch over, you want to see what's happening here, but then the other stuff is so intriguing too. You're like, oh man, I'm back here. Like, this is great. And there's so many interesting POVs, and it causes for a very awesome reading experience. But from the very beginning of this season, I was already extremely interested in like the Gandhian model of POV, obviously Lisa's, with the whole Yuta stuff, because from the beginning I was like, what in the world's going on there? And then, of course, the stuff happening with Brilith, and the fact that all of those memories from past selves came back to her was such an interesting concept, and I love that we felt the weight of that. We're still feeling the weight of that. And I love the way that was handled. I was not expecting the Asha flashbacks at the beginning of the season to lead into that. I thought it would lead into something else, but no, this series just loves delivering pain on all fronts, and that Brilla stuff is crazy. I mean, the entire season was crazy. And so, man, legendary stuff happening there. From the first 100 chapters, besides that, something else that really stuck out to me, of course, was the Callie and Lee's stuff that was happening there. Obviously, we started going into the whole time travel stuff around there, which was still, the level of ambition behind that is insane. But before we got into all that insanity, I remember being so just immersed whenever Callie took over Yuta's body and they had that conversation between the two, because there's still a few things that I want to go back and read through there where I was just going crazy. But then when we got the reveal that it was future Lee's who we saw back in season 2, oh man, yo, when that just, my mind was so blown, like my ankles were so broken, I think I hit the floor. And I should give this opportunity to shout out Shadow and Howl for putting up with my spam, because I spammed a lot in season 3. I spammed more than in season 2. Because it was moments like that where you had this realization of, what? It was future Lee's, and like, when you go back and read those chapters, it makes so much sense. A different individual. And then now there's even more interesting subtext to that with the most recent craziness with chapter 236, I think that was the chapter, with the Maruna and Lee's conversation. Because Maruna has specifically pointed out that Lee's is different on these specific things, and obviously leading back into the resurrection and the souls, and they're different from the past, right? And your name is different, and all those different types of things, which I still love the emphasis and the focus on the weight of names, the weight of sins, all of that's done here, especially within the flashbacks. I really love it, but we'll get to that in a second. But in that particular instance, I was like, yo, this stuff is nuts. Like, that's when I knew that this series was, like, the planning behind it was on another level. I mean, I already could tell whenever we got all of the different scenes with Lee's, and I'll never forget, there's this one scene that still sticks out in my mind whenever Lee's is speaking to Kubera in season 2, and she's telling him a joke. It was the same thing that, oh my, Rao, Lee's. Dog, when I saw Rao in real time, I was screaming. I was like, wait, what? We're doing this right now? We're doing this? So I was like, yo, my boy Jing. And like, where? Rao, Lee's the GOAT. But whenever he, because I just read that yesterday, whenever he was acting the way that he was towards Ran, it reminded me so much of the way that Lee's was acting towards both Ran and Kubera. And it reminded me of that scene whenever you see Lee's and then you see Lee's in the future. And it's like, we don't know who that is. And for so long, I thought that was somebody else. And then we get to see that's actually Lee's herself. And it's that type of stuff where when we look back at the initial Maruna and Lee's confrontation from season 2, and then we remember how different she was acting then, it was like, oh my goodness. It's not just that she snapped. It's that she became an entirely different person. Like, the individual who cared for her the most, which was herself from the future. And preserving that, I was like, oh, this series is peak. It's good. Those chapters blew my mind, man. That's how I knew this was going to be peak. But nothing in the history of this medium could have ever prepared me for what follows this. Because this is the thing when it comes to stopping momentum, right? When we cut back, craziness is going down. We're starting to see, all this stuff, Rana, all of this around stuff with the gods, all that stuff, right? But at its core, now you're starting to see Asha come back into the picture. You're starting to wonder. You're seeing Ananta there with it, which, right? So it's like, hold on, man. What's going on here? And then you flip over, and the series is firing on all cylinders. Now you have a situation where all of the plot lines are culminating. So I thought we were running into another season 2 situation where it was just going nuts. Lee's is going after Asha. Asha has run into a stage 5 Maruna who has come back from the past. Bro, when I saw that, I was going crazy, man. I was like, my GOAT, and he just felt different. I just didn't know what he went through. Nothing could have ever prepared for what he went through. So when he's like, we meet again, magician. I was up, dog. That was the rawest line I've ever heard in my entire life. I was like, yo, hold up, man. Asha pulling up, and Maruna just like calm as can be. We meet again, magician. I was like, I had my foam finger. I was boop. That shit was so hype. I was crazy. So all of that's culminating, right? You have all these plot lines going nuts. And then that's whenever we get Maruna discussing with the legendary Samfati, right? And that stuff right there. But then we have that conversation beginning on what Maruna actually went through, what Maruna and Ran went through in the past, right? That led them here, because we had an idea. At least I had an idea. I was like, oh man, yeah, after the Lee stuff, because it was already starting to get crazy. I was like, okay, now that one, we didn't know whether Callie was capping or whether Callie was spitting. We still believe Callie's capping because it's Callie, right? But Callie do be spitting. That's why I love her so much. Like, there's a lot of spit in that cap. You know what I'm saying? That's like the best way that you could put Callie's character, and a lot of these characters, honestly, because a lot of them stay capping. But they be spitting in that cap, man. And when you look back at the way in which that was handled, it was so crazy. Because in the same way this entire series is, it's like you see all the foreshadowing towards something. You see all the build towards something. You just can't ever prepare yourself for what that actually is leading towards. And so when we get the break, now the break is really when season 3 started like, oh my goodness, this is peak. right? Like this is some goated stuff. Because before that, you have the culmination. You had I couldn't stop flipping the pages, the we meet again magician, all that stuff, right? All that stuff was going crazy. But then when you get the break and you start getting the flashbacks, and or not the flashbacks, the side stories, which I'm so glad. Shout out to Shadow, shout out to the comment section from the season 2 video. The side stories, because all those side stories were great. You guys were absolutely right. They provided so much context to the stuff that would take place after and the stuff that took place before. And I always love in fiction, and the way this series handles so far, is whenever, you know, the concepts of stuff like religion, belief, the weight of sins, the beginning of time. I love when all of that stuff is brought up, especially when we can relate it to where we are. It allows us another point of view, another perspective into how maybe our reality may have started as well. And I love that type of stuff, and I love the way the series has handled it. And I really started feeling that, not only throughout the course of the story, but during those side stories. But the final side story with Yuta and Lise is one of my favorite things the series has ever produced. I love alternate realities. There's an episode in Neon Genesis Evangelion that does this so perfectly. And of course, JoJo, and there's a couple other series that have done this really well. But I love the way that was handled because, you know, dream sequences are normally seen as cop-outs. In Kubera, because the characters suffer so much, whenever they have a moment of happiness like this, you know pain follows. And the way that it was handled was so GOAT, man. That Yuta and Lise stuff. And it added so much weight and context to the stuff that would follow and the insanity that would follow here from here on out, right? So before I get into the Maruna Ran greatness and the weight of time, which is one of the most ambitious things that I have ever seen, it still blows my mind how that was done. It really was, dude. Before I get into that, I want to take a moment to talk about Lisa's full name in terms of the Kubera Lisa Nanta thing. When I first saw that, I was so like, it reminded me back to Callie's conversation on wanting to like switch names and all that stuff. It's like, yo, Callie's always known. She's very devious. So I was like, from all the way back then, were you plotting this? And when I found out that, like the name Ananta, it really got me thinking too, because we know that Asha and Kubes are both connected to Ananta, like the Ananta they're trying to revive. And so we've seen Ananta's flashes with Asha. We've seen Ananta's obviously with Kubes, or with Kubera. So it's like the connections are all there. This character is obviously extremely important to so many different characters. To Sagata as well. So like all these different characters, obviously an extremely important character. And so, and then seeing, of course, more from Ananta within the flashbacks, like you come to understand why this character means so much to so many people. And it's just such an amazing character concept, but we'll get to that in a second. When it comes to the name itself, it really fascinated me because now Lise carries the weight of 3 legendary names. Like, that is the most stacked name you could ever have, right? And it was a great reveal because now you have the weight of the Lise name with how legendary Hirao is. You have the weight of the insane, of course, Kubes name. That has the most weight out of everything, right? Kubera. And then when you follow that up with Ananta, it's like these are 3 very important names, and Lise is carrying the weight of all of them. And I love how that was also followed up with the lifespan. When that was initially brought up, I was really scared. I was like, wait a minute. So obviously, she was going to die later on. That's something that we had already known, that she would, because based on season 2, she was going to die very young. But it was like, how is this going to be handled? And when that was brought up, I was like, holy flagness. But I just did not expect it to be done in this way, in the way in which after that, we would go on to see so many legendary ways of executing time travel within a story, man. This has to be my favorite way that time travel has ever been executed in a story. Because it's so unique and it's still being handled now. The ambition, the level of ambition to tell this type of story. I feel like if I were in Kurigum's in inner seat, I would have already, like, my patience, the amount of patience that it takes to write something of this level is insane. There's a lot of patience, man. I would have been wanting to come back to the craziness happening with Maruna, Lee's, and the stuff happening current time because of all that stuff that was coming together. I was like, no, we're gonna take it easy, baby. We're gonna take it easy. And I love the slow burn of like what's happening here. We're getting closer and closer. We're coming to understand Maruna as an individual. But then they go through that portal. And we start off the weight of time stuff, man. And we follow Ran and Maruna, but specifically Maruna, through the ages of mankind, through the ages of the beginning of civilization. And all I can do is clap. All I can do is clap because I can tell you guys something, man. That is the level of ambition I love in my favorite stories. You know, there's stuff that's executed at a very high level. You know, there's different things that attract us to these stories, to want to seek out more stories, right? There's the legendary binging experiences like we had in season 2, for example. There's the big reveals, like the full name with the Ananta thing. There's the something crazy's coming with the season 3 preview. But there comes a point in time in some of these stories where you see something you've never seen before. It's a concept you've seen before, but in a way that you've never seen it before. And I loved how we were able to get a history lesson on this verse through Maruna's perspective as he himself grows as a character thanks to this. So now you're going crazy because you're learning the lore, you're seeing the beginnings of this verse, while you're seeing Maruna change as a character. And now we're not only getting a history lesson, not only are we going crazy over lore dumps, but we're also going crazy over moments of tension where you know if Maruna does something here he's not supposed to, it's going to forever change the landscape of the series. And so then you start meeting characters like Raltara. Then you start going down the line of Maruna actually getting attached to the humans. And then you start seeing just how crazy these individuals are and the things and the way they handle and see certain things. And the reason why this arc hit me as hard as it did is, once again, going back to what I said earlier, and I absolutely love when this type of stuff is shown in stories in this way. And I remember after I finished Xenogears, which if you are a fan of this series and you like when stuff like this is shown, I would highly recommend checking out Xenogears, because Xenogears, I highly recommend experiencing that game if you like the way that stuff was handled in this series, because I think it's going to also allow you to reflect in the same way the weight of time allowed me to reflect, right? Again, where I was thinking, what's going to be the next series that really makes me think about the beginning of mankind, like the beginning of time itself, how we came to be, you know, all that stuff, you know. And this arc really brought that to the forefront, and it brought so many questions and to me, just in regards as self-reflection, right? These journeys that we have to go through on our own. Maruna went on a journey that lasted for him millenniums. That was the longest, but because he's a Suda, time, you know, goes by, you know, these years fly. To him, it's nothing. But you know, as real deal started even affecting him, that's how you know he was there for a long time. And so you have an individual who's going through this very long character journey through the ages of time, learning the realities of the way in which this world works. And it hit different. I've never seen that done in any story. And then when it culminates with absolute phenomenal goat raw fire peak there at the end, it was legendary. That stuff was amazing. It's one of those to where when you finish it, like when I finished the Weight of Time stuff, it was just one of those things to where you're just grateful for the fact you were able to experience that. It was one of those moments in stories, because that goes beyond normal levels of like goatness. That to me is like, hold up, man. We're experiencing something that only for me and my journey of experiencing stories, it's one of those like once in a lifetime situations where, wow, I've never seen that happen before. I've never felt what I'm currently feeling. I felt similar feelings, but I never knew I wanted something like this. I never knew something like this could be done. I knew it could be done, but not to this level. And it was the amount of care that was put into every chapter, into every moment. Little small stuff like Madonna being inside of this massive city that feels so like ours. You know, a city with so much technology in a world that's supposed to be covered in magic that just makes you feel like, by the flag nards, Madonna is currently living through the time we're currently living in. And it just makes you think it's like a post-apocalyptic world to them is the current timeline of this series. And all the way back then was our time. And it was moments like that where I just had these moments of, brother, way like millenniums after our generation passes on, how is our world gonna look like? It just caused so many different ways of not only you self-reflecting on your own life's journey, but for the world, for like, I don't know, man. I once again, just a clap. Like, I'm still trying to process all of my thoughts on this because it was just handled so well. But when you get the moments with Madonna having those moments of internal conflict, of wanting to choose one thing or the other, the way that he feels over what he believes is his purpose, having to lie, having to do all of these things that he would not have done in the past, showcasing that change. I thought that The Weight of Time was going to be the peak of that. Like, we saw so many beautiful Madonna moments come out of this, and so many moments, like, we saw the progression of him going from the character that he was before, even though he was already a very kind character. But we got to see him come to accept and understand this part of himself, still struggling with it, but we got to see so much of it through the entire arc. Nothing in the history of anything could have prepared me for the real peakness of this man's character. Because when we go back and Madonna is running, oh my goodness, with the Utah stuff, and we see him, oh yeah, and it was just so well executed. But in the midst of all of that, in the midst of all the Madonna peak goatness, there's two moments. I think these are my two favorite moments in the entire series. I really do, because they're rent-free in my head. I mean, just as moments. I feel like the entirety of like all of this that we're currently going through has been like my favorite stuff in the series, but two moments that just stuck out to me so much. Actually, three. The first one is when Madonna's about to grab the legendary sword, and Lise shows up, future Lise, looking different than we've ever seen her before, with a look that just screams, I've gone through some stuff, dude. And she's like, yo, I gotta pull up the actual. Do I have the panel? Dude, the panel's so the panel is legendary, man. I don't know if I have the panel on me, but dude, that panel hit me so hard. Hold on, let me see if I have it. I might have it. Like, I found it. This is such a big panel, dude. Lise comes in, interrupts Madonna from getting the Blade of Legend, and is like, it's enough for me to be the only one to wield it. And at the time, I didn't understand the weight behind those words, and we still don't understand. I firmly believe, and Shadow was the one who really brought this up to my attention, but I firmly believe when we see everything, these little moments when we've seen Lise, because we haven't seen her in a minute, but these little moments where we see future Lise, when we get all of that from her perspective and all of the stuff that she went through while going through time like this, that's going to be the greatest stuff of all time, dude. That is going to be the pinnacle of pinnacles. That is going to be the peak of peak, all right? Because if we saw what was done with Madonna, I can't even fathom what's about to happen with Lise. Especially with a face like this, you can just tell she went through it, man. The truth that she knows, oh my God. Dog. And then, So that was number one. This moment to me it hit me so hard because I just was not expecting it. When I saw her, I flipped up my seat. I was like, yo, it's enough for me to be the only one to wield it. Then we switch over, and the second time that we saw her like this was arguably my favorite moment. I think this is my favorite moment of the series. It hit me on every level. I was sobbing like a madman, dude. I felt like the Cold Steel 2, you know, that all the every sad stuff you could ever hear was playing, man. I was going crazy. The chapter 212, I believe, was 212 at the beginning of 213, when Lee shows up within the white state and goes to Utah. And it's just the moment they have together, the way that it was paneled, the words, you already know when we see that stuff from Lisa's perspective, it's gonna hit even harder. But that moment with the two of them, there at the very end of that Utah, that was the pinnacle. I was, like I said, with the context of already what we had seen throughout the series, knowing what Utah is currently going through for Lise. And then we go and remember the side story. And then we remember everything that Lise is going through. So for that moment to take place there, that was the last thing I was expecting. When Lise showed up, I was at a loss for words because my favorite character had shown up, and I was going crazy because like, this is happening. The top OTP is happening. Like, you know, Lise and Utah greatness is happening, and those panels, they just hit me so hard, man. They just hit me so hard. And then you get to the chapter 213. As a matter of fact, bro, I don't even care, man. Hold on, I'm pulling up the chapter. I'm pulling up the chapter. All right, I'm pulling up the chapter. I have to. This is peak, man. Like this stuff is too goated. So we go over. Look at this, the other side of the story, and then we go. What was that chapter? 212? No, 211. 211 was the chapter. 211 was the chapter. And then the beginning of 212. So look at this, bro. 211. You get to see the goatness here, Maruna. Oh my goodness. Then you pull over. Utah is ready. He is ready. Lise comes in, puts a stop to it. Oh my goodness. Dog, she comes in, hugs him from behind. I'm sorry that I was unable to lessen your pain, that I was unable to realize your worries. That's for me to say. Aren't you going to tell me to go anymore? The lake is already gone. Dude, she's just hugging him, dude. Dog, and it's like, brother! The lifespan of this universe has come to its end. If this place has come to this, I can only imagine that there's nothing left outside the abyss. And probably soon I will disappear too. This is peak fiction. This is peak fiction. The loneliness I felt until a moment ago seems like nothing but a lie now. To be able to see you before my death leaves you embrace even the me of the mere possibility. Yeah, I'll be with you in all of your final moments. And I was just like, yo, this is Hunter x Hunter chapter 318. This is Hunter x Hunter chapter 318, bro. And then we get to see Lise by herself as the world is crumbling, a smiling Utah. Then all of those me's must be happier than anyone else. Lise is left by herself. Dog, this is peak, son. Like, I'm talking about P-E-A-K. All right? Capital P, capital E, capital A, capital K. That is chapter 211 of Kubera. That's chapter 211 of Kubera. All right? Come on, man. And then you see, it is legendary stuff. And you go over to the next, and you get to see Maruna in the final moments before the gate closes, seeing the human Kubera Lise, and then this expression, no, man, no. And then just when we think that Maruna could not peak even higher, then we go into the stuff that we're currently going through in the Ananta arc, where he is now. And I love the way this is being handled with the Rana stuff, and we're learning more about the history within the verse, the Haran stuff. Yo, Haran in this arc has been the GOAT. But Maruna once again continuing to develop and evolve as a character, and I'm really loving what the series is doing with him. But then you get to chapter 236 with the two of them, man, and it's just it hits so different. And I really can't wait until the both of them meet in the current time. And I do wonder, because it's been brought up a lot, that Maruna, it looks like Maruna's gonna have to go through the entire history of the series to the current time, right? And so I wonder, does that mean we're going to get the massacre in Lisa's village from his perspective then? right? We're going to see him do that to the village. And then I wonder, because if future Lee's is going to see that too, I wonder how all that's going to happen there. Like, because you already know it's going to be a massive moment. A very, very huge moment, right? And so with all the big twists, I can only imagine what's going to happen there. And then we have the stuff with Raul Lee's now being brought into the picture. I was going nuts. I was like, yo, let's go. It's such an awesome character. I love his personality, and it's just so interesting. And the big twists and turns that took place here. But without question, my favorite part of this entire saga was definitely this with Maruna and Lee's. It just caught me so off guard. Maruna pushes Raul out of the way, like, yo, you're going to be saved. And then Lee's pops in, wanting to take all of the burden, wanting to take all of the pain. Oh, no, this was so peak, dude. This was so peak. Goes in, what was it, chapter 237 then? It's not 236? Yeah, it's 237. It's 237, not bad. It's 237. Yo. Yeah, 237. Look at this, man. And it's just the relationship these two characters. Every time that Maruna and Lee's are on the same screen, it's just it's legendary. It's the best chapters happen. The best moments happen. Look, when you look back at the time travel thing back in season 2, and then the reveal of what that truly was, and then you get this. It's like, yo, every time these two are together, it's always pinnacle. It's always the pinnacle. And I just love the conversation that they had, and I just Maruna, man. Maruna, bro. He's like, I will make it expand by striking it, and if it is weak, I'll patch up its cracks and make it endure. I won't be subdued by something like this. Like, dog. Where's the line? Where's the line that this panel of Maruna is so gold, man. He continues to peak. He continues to peak, yo. And it's like, all right, then brace yourself. It will constantly try to bring you down. You'll be put to the test at every moment. Thoughts of giving up may become intense. And it's like, Lee's is speaking from experience here. This version of Lee's will make this ordeal difficult for you above all else is that there will be no forgiveness. This is the fate of those who bear the sins of time. Resentment of guilt must simply be accepted and buried. In the end, you will lose the opportunity to be forgiven even for your past mistakes. And at the end of your life, you will die without attaining any peace of mind. Are you still fine with that? It doesn't matter. I never thought I'd be forgiven anyway, and I also never thought I deserved to live comfortably. Like, that's my goats. Those are my goats, and that's why, like, seeing this conversation, I'm like, I'm even more not ready for Lisa's perspective, because just knowing that there's weight behind those words, you already know that she suffered so much, but based on the stuff that we're seeing from this Lise right here, that we've gotten from whenever she stopped Maruna from grabbing the sword, from the Yuta chapter, what was that, 211? 211, now this one, it's like, oh my goodness, bro, when we get all of that stuff from her perspective, it's going to be absolutely insane. It's going to be so peak, man. So, this series has provided so many legendary moments, so many legendary scenes, and I just, to know that we have yet to experience stuff like that, like, this just happened, and I feel like this was Maruna's best character moment. Like, it's insane how much this series continues to outdo itself, and I can't wait to see more in regards to all this stuff that's now happening with the time travel stuff, but also when we get back to the present, get back to all of that insanity that's happening right now that we left off on, the Lise and Maruna conversation in real time, what's going to happen there, Asha, and it's like Brilith, what's going to happen with her, right, and insane stuff. Raul, like, what are we gonna see now with Raul Lise within this flashback? Can't wait to see more from him and his character, his potential interactions with Asha in real time that we're gonna get to see through the flashback, and I can't wait, man. It's gonna be so good. So many mysteries are gonna be answered soon, and then piled up even more mysteries, but I can't wait to see Lisa's perspective of this stuff, man. Like that, however long that it's in being, because we know that's probably going to either lead into the stuff that we saw in the beginning of season 3 with that insane like preview that we saw, or we're gonna see that after, right? Like somewhere there, we're gonna have like a legendary stretch of chapters with Lee's greatness, and based on what we've gotten here, every time we've seen her has been goated. Every time we've seen her has been so good, man. And so this series, I love it. It is absolutely just delivering on everything that I never thought that it was even capable of doing. And it's just every time I think that it can't get any better than this, it continues to prove me wrong. And so that is a formula that every single one of my favorites has, and it's one that this series has. Without question, my favorite webtoon I've experienced this far, and definitely has a spot in like my favorite series list, and without question with the characters in the series as well. It's so good. I love so many things about it, and I look forward to finding even more crazy nuggets of reveals and foreshadowing and just rereading all of this to truly grasp the level of ambition that's being told here, because I never really get to grasp that until the reread. Like, just to know that I'm already feeling this way on the first initial read through is crazy. When I reach this reread, I'm gonna be going nuts. I am gonna be going nuts. And so this series is special. This series is awesome, and there's a lot of things that we could have said in regards to the themes, the stuff being said here, but that's just all the stuff that's in my heart right now. I just recently experienced all this stuff, so I'm going crazy, man. I'm going crazy, and I can't wait to see more. But the relationship, the growing, not only just parallels, but the interactions that we get between Maruna and Lise just continue to make this series even more special. And I can't wait for the next one, because you already know that chapter is going to be goated. It's just so good, man. It's just so good, dude. Like, I never would have thought that seeing all those little mini flashbacks of both of them. We saw like this version of Maruna before, right? We just didn't know who it was. And just to know that all of that stuff was at the very least in Curry's mind all the way back then is just, yo, this is real deal Chef Curry right here, man. This is real deal Chef Curry right here, yo. Like, this is crazy. So I will see y'all next time. Let me know your thoughts on season 3 of The Goatness in the comment section down below. This is not a series I'm going to be regularly covering. It's going to be more so a personal thing. But if I do get an opportunity to discuss other things that I really enjoy about this series, I would love to do that here on the channel. So until next time, I will see y'all. Man, just what a journey. What a journey. Like I said, I look forward to the reread, and now the quest begins to find something that I can enjoy as much as the most recent binging experience that I had, which was this. And this is going to be some tough shoes to fill. And I look forward to seeing what the next journey and the next story has to offer. But till next time, Lise, Maruna, Brilith, the Goats, Ran, legends, man, legends. Cannot wait for more. This has been season 3. Goatness, man. Just come on, dude.